Today what we're going to do is review a lot of the things that we've gone over before. I want to make sure that everything is kind of sticking here. We're going to cover adjustment layers, we're going to cover clipping masks, we're going to cover a lot today. In this ticket review, we are going to build a concert ticket for a fictional concert, and we're going to build it up using a lot of images, a lot of shapes, and we're going to use a couple of different fonts along the way. Before we begin, I want you to go to font.adobe.com. So at fonts.adobe.com, you can find a number of types of fonts here. These fonts can be anything and everything that you want them to be. I recommend you experimenting in here sometime and kind of looking at the different fonts you can get, grabbing a bunch of them so you're never using boring fonts. We're going to start with a font called Etna, E-T-N-A. Click on that and go to the Etna font family. Once you've clicked on that, it'll have an option over here that says Add. Go ahead and click on that. That'll put it into your computer. When you have that, go back to search, and we're going to look for Mendel, M-E-N-D-L. We're looking for Mendel Sans specifically. Click on that, and we're going to add that font family to our computer as well. We're going to be using both of these fonts along the way, so make sure you have both of them ready to go. Now we're going to start with the review looking at what we're actually trying to make. The goal is to clean up this text and to make some interesting images over here on the left. Now, if you look into your layers panel real quick, you'll notice that we have a lot of things going on underneath ticket. We've got the background texture, we've got the text itself, and then we have the images and shapes. If you click on the different images, you can kind of see some of the images that we have in here. So this is called the Lovers Tour. There's a lot of images of different types of couples. And we're going to utilize these in a unique way to kind of create an interesting look for what we're trying to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our move tool on this shape. You'll see the shape layer right here. We're going to hold Alt or Option on this, click, hold, and drag, and we'll see a bunch of measurements come up. If you're shifting to the left or right, hold Shift on your keyboard as you move down, and that'll keep you in a straight line. Now in between the two, you'll notice a little bit of a gap of these shapes, and it'll tell you how far that gap is. I wanted around 14 pixels, doesn't have to be exact. Now when I hold Alt and Option to create a third one, I'm going to notice that I have multiple measurements going on. And at one point when I get to the equal amount of distance, it's going to show me both 14 pixels on this one and the one above. This keeps me equal and aligned to what I'm trying to do. Now in my layers panel, I'm going to grab all three of those rectangles. I'm going to click on the bottom one, hold Shift, click on the top one. And I'm going to hold Alt or Option, and I'm going to drag those to the right. Now again, I'm looking for about an equal amount of space here. So as I'm dragging to the right, I want it to be about the same. It's showing 13 pixels for me. I'm going to release there, and I'm going to hit right on my keyboard one time. That should put me at about 14 pixels. I'll do the same thing again, dragging these back over again. You see when it lines up, it puts me at 14 pixels. Good. So I now have a grid system of rectangles. They're all aligned, they're evenly spaced. That's what I'm looking for. Now, what image goes into what rectangle becomes a bit of an issue. So we need to go through these images of the couples here and kind of figure out what I want and where they're going to be. So I'm going to put this image at the top, and I'm going to link this image into the box that I need it to be in. Now I can move these around if I need to. So if I place it in the wrong box by accident, for example, if I've got it down here and I Control click on it, that's going to place this in the wrong spot. I can't even see my image. Command Z, move the image around to where you need it to be. I want it in this corner. I'm going to put the image directly above the box that I want it to go into. And I'm going to hold Option or Alt just underneath that image of the couple. And I'm going to link it down so that it fits naturally in that box. So we're going to need to do this for every one of these boxes. We're going to put each couple in its own box. So find the couple, bring it up, place it into place, put it above the box you want it to be in. Hold Alt or Option, click down to place them in that box, and then you can move them a little bit as needed. Now again, as you're doing this, if you accidentally put them in the wrong box, you can't see them. Feel free to unlink them, move that image to where it should be, and then link that back down. So go through all of these, moving the couples just above the rectangle you want them to be, turning them on, and then clicking that link to link them down, making sure they're nice and central in each image. All right, so once we have our photo grid here, all of our images are in place and looking good. I want to add an adjustment layer to each one to add a little bit more style to this. So while the images look good, they don't have a uniform look. Some of them are very different than the others. So I'm going to select each image here. So I'm going to start on my bottom couple and kind of work my way up, or reverse. Just make sure you do this on each image. I'm going to go to my adjustment layers, my half black, half white circle, and I'm going to select the option that says gradient map. Be very careful not to click on gradient here. We are looking for gradient map. So when I create that gradient map, it's going to change color of everything. So remember, adjustment layers do this, right? Anytime you have an adjustment layer, you have to link it down. So over in my layers panel, every one of these rectangles should have a couple on top with that arrow linking them down, as well as an arrow on the gradient map linking it down. So again, these two things only affect this rectangle as long as they're linked down. Every one of these should look like this. So I need to adjust my gradient. My gradient is very dark here. A lot of you will end up on the basic black and white gradient, and that'll turn it grayscale, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I want you to experiment with some of your different gradients in here. Click on some of these different options and you'll see it dramatically changes the overall look that we're going for. So find something that makes it look very different. Now, clicking on this gradient right here allows you to make the gradient whatever you want it to be. So if you notice that my image here looks reversed, that's because my left image is a lighter color than my left color. So if I flip those around, I get more of the color that I want. If you want to make your own, you can double click on these points, drag your colors around and kind of see what colors you can make out of this. That's what I would prefer you to do. Don't use these defaults because everybody uses these defaults. Create your own colors. Drag these little points around until it looks like how you want it to look. When you're happy, hit OK. Click on the next image. That'll select the image in the layers. Go to your adjustment layer. Choose gradient map. Make sure to link this down. You can hit this button at the bottom of your properties just the same. Click on that gradient and create a different color scheme. Now on this one, as all of them, the left image, the left point, needs to be your darker color. So whatever you're going to do, make sure the left is dark and the right side is light. And you'll see it gives a nice color fill to this. Hit OK. Continue moving through the rest of your images this same way. Create your gradient map, link it down, change your color to whatever color you want it to be, the right side being your lighter color, the left side being your darker color. Hit OK when done, you'll get your image. Mix your colors up as you move through and create a different gradient map on all 9 of these. Okay, so once you've created your gradient maps on each one of these images, you get a much more stylized, much more interesting look to your overall design. This definitely pops and adds something unique to you, something you did and something that's not something everybody's going to do. Next, I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm going to hover just outside of this image and I'm going to click, hold, and drag to make another rectangle. Now I want to make the top, the left, and the bottom kind of equal to each other, but I want to stretch out the right side a little bit further. Good. Now I'm going to put this at the bottom of my layers. So make sure as you're dragging this down, you're not accidentally putting it in one of those clipping masks, because that will create an issue. I want this under the main artist. And I want you to pick whatever color you want to pick for this. If you want this background to be greenish or purplish, whatever floats your boat, whatever color you want it to be. Now, once I have this, I'm going to bring forward my main artist image. Now, my main artist image is down at the bottom, and I'll need to bring that up towards the top. So again, you've got to organize your layers in your hierarchy. Whatever's on the top is going to be on top in everything. Now with the main artist selected, I'm going to hit W to get my quick selection tool, and I'm going to go up to the top and click Select Subject. That should make a pretty quick selection around her without any real problems. Once that selection is there, I'll click on Layer Mask so that I mask her out. I might need to wiggle her a little bit from where she is depending on how your spacing is working. I want to be able to see these couples just a little bit, but I don't want her way off the side of this box either. Now we're going to apply two different adjustment layers to her. We are going to apply a threshold and then a gradient map. So let's go through the adjustment layers real quick and go to threshold. Again, you'll notice it changes everything down. Make sure you link this to only affect her. Now I want my threshold to the point where I can kind of see some strings coming through on that guitar, but I don't see all of them. So kind of move this around until you see those strings a little bit, and you should be good. Threshold turns it black and white, showing how much black and how much white you want depending on that little slider in the properties. Next, I'm going to go to my adjustment layers again and add a gradient map to her, again linking that down. The gradient map you pick for this can be anything that you want it to be depending on the colors that you've kind of played with. I'm going to go with kind of a dark purple going to a light pink color to kind of give that feminine edge to it. And I'm going to hit OK, and this is what I'm going to end up with. I think this is a pretty cool look for this left-hand side. And this is a replica of an existing ticket out there, so if you've seen this similar design, you know what it is. Now over on the right-hand side, we want to play with the text. In your layers, we can go ahead and toggle down the images and shapes. We can lock that layer, and we can move down to the text layer. So we've looked at adjustment layers, we've looked at layer masks, we've looked at shapes and how to duplicate things. Now we're moving on to the actual text. To do this, we need our two fonts, the Etna and the Mendel fonts. So we're going to adjust how these look and where these are depending on what we're trying to do. So we're going to adjust where these are, and we're going to have two different fonts that complement each other by contrast. Contrast is the difference between two things. So I want two fonts that are very different from each other. So the name of the artist, the Bluebells, we're going to select that, and we're going to change that to that Etna font. And we also want a hierarchy of our font, meaning the text at the top is bigger, bolder than what we have underneath it. So this is going to be the biggest, boldest thing in the set. It should be. It's the name of the artist, right? Lovers Tour, we're going to select that. We're going to change that to Etna as well. But we're going to use a Etna condensed light here. And that's going to make it a little bit thinner. And we're going to stretch this out font size wise a little bit. We're going to go to about 14 points. And we're going to put that in center. Now if I want to align these two different text boxes, I can click on one, hold shift, click on the one above it. That selects both layers. And if I have them selected, I will have alignment options up at the top. I want to align these centrally, and that'll fix that for me. Now admit one, I want this to be that Mendel font, M-E-N-D-L. Now there's a bunch of them in here. There's Dawns and there's Dusks. I'm looking for the one that says Dusk Thin. So find Dusk Thin. Now you can see that that font looks dramatically different from the other ones. That's what I'm looking for in the end. Now where it says section, seat, and row, I'm going to move those off to the side for the time being. And I'm going to look at date and time. So this is the rule of proximity. Things that belong together should be together. The date and the time are important to each other. You need both of those pieces of information to show up to the right location. So these pieces of information should be together based on the law of proximity. Same's true for the section, seat, and row. When you're in the auditorium looking for this seat, You need to know this information in order to find your seat. So I'm going to click on VIP right here and move this down into the right here. I'm going to change that to that Etna font again. And I'm going to look for Etna semi-bold right here because I don't want it to be as predominant as the top piece. The date, the time, and the venue all belong together. We're going to change these all to that Mendel font. Again, we're looking at the dusk settings here. So I'm going to look for dusk light, and that's going to change that one. So once I've got that one, I'm just going to select these other two and change it to the same thing. Mendel dusk light. Same with the venue down here. Mendel dusk light. All right, so that gets my main chunk of text done. I'm dealing with two types of alignment here, and that might be throwing off the look a little bit, but I think it looks cleaner by doing this. I've got a centrally aligned thing at the top, the bluebells, the lover's tour, and admit one. I'll select all three, and I'll line them up centrally. Now on the bottom side, I have a left aligned section going on. They're aligned to the left. So I'll select those three and left align those, making sure that they fit how I want them to fit. Left align. All right, now section, row, and seat. We're going to do these a little differently. I need to first change the font on each of these. So I'm going to go to Mendel again, and I'm going to pick Dusk Thin, just like we've been using. I'm going to hit Escape, go back, change the next one. So Mendel Dusk Thin. Mendel Dusk Thin. All right, with this text here, I am going to rotate these pieces. So the first thing I need is section. So I'm going to grab this section right here and hit Command T. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. I'm going to move it down here towards the bottom right corner. So the first thing I need is section. The next thing I need is row. I'm going to do the same thing with it. And then I'm going to do seat. Same thing, moving it up towards the top. Now I don't want these touching any form of edge. I want to leave a little bit of margin around the outside. Same is true for all text. Don't put text right on the edge. I'm going to grab all three of these pieces of text. And I'm going to come up here to centrally align them, or left or right. It doesn't really matter for this because it's going to line them all up the same way. I'll make sure they're kind of in the middle here a little bit. And then I have an option right here. This will allow me to distribute these based on the spacing between them. So I'm going to click on this, and this might move row a little bit, but it'll even out the space between these two things. Good. So that is my actual section, seat, and row of where I'm going to be. All right, so once we have all of our text looking good, there is a image in here for a barcode right here. So just click on that and that'll turn that on. You want to make sure that's not touching your VIP. Make sure that VIP is kind of lined up with bluebells. If you need to move your text of your section, seat, and row down a little bit, do that. Utilize those pink lines to kind of gauge where you're supposed to be. If I look for that individual pink line in the middle, that's kind of where I'm looking for right there, to be in the middle. All right, so that gets me my overall look. Last touch, the background texture layer. I want to use my marquee tool, M for marquee, and I want to select all of this area except for where the barcode is. Where that barcode starts, I stop with this selection. And I'm going to create a layer mask on that background texture. And that's just going to turn that bottom area, that right side, completely white. So now this works for scanners. When you go into a concert, they'll scan your ticket. You'll see your section, seat, and row where you go. This is how it's supposed to look. So you can see what we've done today. We have played with adjustment layers. We've played with shapes. We've played with alignment. We've experimented with text. We've downloaded fonts and installed them. We've used our free transform options to rotate and alter how things looked. We've looked at font hierarchy, how the bluebells is bigger, bolder, and it is the most important thing. Moving down, the more important it is, the bigger or bolder it is. You read it in the correct order. That's the goal. We've talked about our different fonts, using fonts that contrast each other. So the bluebells being big and bold versus that thinner font that doesn't draw as much attention, right? So that I read in the correct order, starting at the top and moving my way down. This is all part of good design, how you experiment with your design and how you play around with your design. So that's your daily dose of design. I hope this has helped you out today, kind of remembering all the other things we've talked about. If this has, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel for more updates that will be coming in the future. Thank you so much and see you in the next one.